This is the 3D Viewmaster storybook Pippi Longstocking from Astrid Lindgren. Pippi Longstocking was 9 years old and she lived alone in an old house on the outskirts of a tiny little town in Sweden. Her mother had died when Pippi was a baby, but the little red-haired girl was sure her mother was now up in heaven, watching over Pippi 24 hours a day through a peephole in the sky. Pippi's father was a sea captain who had sailed the 7 seas, but one day he blew overboard during a great storm and disappeared. Pippi was certain her father would return. She believed he had floated safely to shore on some distant South Sea island, where he was now king of the cannibals. At first, Pippi thought living alone was very nice. No one told her when to go to bed. No one told her to take cod liver oil when she much preferred some caramel candy. But knowing her mother might disapprove, she'd wave up at her and say, "Don't worry about me so." Viewmaster Reel 1. Picture 1. Pippi Longstocking was very strong for a girl her age. She could easily lift a horse and often did. When she knew that company was coming, Pippi would carry her horse, Karl Albert, from the parlor where he normally stayed to the yard outside. The children who lived in the house next door could not understand why anyone would keep a house in their parlor, but Pippi had a logical explanation. "Well," she said, "I can tell you that in certain parts of the world people actually live with horses, cows, pigs and chickens all the time and think nothing about it. But since you've been rude enough to bring it up, I guess I'll have to tell you that my horse lives in the parlor because there just isn't enough room for him in the kitchen." Picture 2. Then, knowing that Tommy and Annika really meant well, Pippi asked them inside for a home-cooked Italian dinner, a recipe she'd picked up on an around-the-world trip with her father. And she astonished her neighbors by lying flat across the table and eating from a plate she'd placed on a chair. "The Italians eat this way all the time," she told them. "It keeps the spaghetti sauce off their clothes." Tommy and Annika were beginning to doubt that Pippi ever told the truth. She admitted that she sometimes lied. "But I know I'm not supposed to. It's just that every now and then I forget." And then, forgetting what she just said, Pippi told Annika that the best way to clean kitchen floors was to tie a pair of scrub brushes on your feet. "I learned to do it that way in the Dutch Indies," she insisted. "And I must say it's quicker and much easier than bending over and doing it on your knees." Picture 3. Meanwhile, just as Pippi had suspected, her father was still alive. He wasn't king of the cannibals, however. He had been taken prisoner by a band of pirates, men who'd as soon cut your throat as say, "Howdy do." In his dismal prison cell, was she all right? He wondered. The captain often thought about his daughter. Would he ever see her again? Rosalinda, his parrot, the one companion the captain was allowed to have, wasn't much help. She kept saying, "Polly want a cracker," and that just made him hungry. One day when his guards weren't looking, he wrote a note to Pippi, popped it in a bottle and dropped the bottle in the sea. "Always carry a bottle," he had told his daughter many times. You never know when you'll be shipwrecked. Picture 4. Pippi found a bottle a few weeks later and promptly began to build a flying machine. You couldn't call it an airplane. When it was finished, Pippi, Tommy, and Annika all agreed that it would, in all likelihood, fly. And that is exactly what it did. Pippi's pet monkey, Mr. Jensen, flew lookout as they winged their way over the tiny little town and across the great ocean, confident that they would eventually be able to rescue Captain Longstocking. Picture 5. Pippi had learned to navigate as she stood beside her father on the bridge of the Fjordholm, and she had no difficulty finding her way in an ocean of air. It's quite simple, she told Tommy and Annika. Father marked his location with an X. All we have to do is fly southwest and we are bound to get to San Cristobal in 40 hours. As luck would have it, the children got there 20 minutes ahead of schedule. Tommy scrambled up a tropical palm tree to see what he could see, and sure enough, the fort where Pippi's father was being held prisoner was on the far side of the island. I can see it, Tommy screamed. Picture 6. Pippi looked up at him in disgust and said, "Be quiet. Do you want to give away our position?" "I don't think anyone saw us coming," Tommy whispered. "Good. Now climb down out of that silly tree and help us find some food," she said firmly. "I don't know about you, but I'm hungry, and I have always made it a rule to never attack a fort on an empty stomach." Then, shaking her head slowly, Pippi shared a family secret. "You may not realize it, but that advice could have saved Napoleon. He might be alive today if he'd listened to my great-grandfather." Mr. Jensen, who frequently seemed to sense what Pippi was saying, raced off into the tangled jungle and returned a few minutes later with some fresh bananas and coconuts. Picture 7. After they had eaten, Annika told Pippi, "It's getting late. It'll soon be too dark to find our way around." Pippi smiled and replied, "That's rule number 2. Never do late in the day what you can put off until tomorrow. I think we ought to build a lean-to of some kind. Seems to me that my father said that was a good idea, especially if it's built with pandanus pine and palm leaves. Camouflage, he called it. It would look like a part of the jungle, and no one could find us even if they were looking for us." The real 2. Picture 1. Pirates, as you know, spend most of their time looking for buried treasure. When they're not doing that, they keep busy trying to get someone to spill the beans about the location of hidden pieces of 8. These pirates were cut from the same mold. They were certain that Captain Longstocking had buried a rich booty on their island. "Now then, my hearty," one of them said, pointing a pistol at the captain's head, "just draw us a map and tell us where it's at. Otherwise, we'll shoot ya in the spot." Knowing his captors meant business, the captain sketched a treasure map, a fake, of course, a way of buying time. Picture 2. The next morning, after a good night's rest, Pippi and her friends sneaked across the island of San Cristobal and cautiously approached the harbor below the fort. Finding a pirate ship unguarded, The children seized it in the name of the King of Sweden and sailed it out of the bay backwards. "Don't be alarmed," Pippi shouted from the crow's nest. "I do almost everything backwards, and I must say it makes good sense. If I decide some day that I'd like to come back to this place, I won't have to turn around." "I can understand that," Annika nodded. "Thought I cannot for the life of me figure out where we're going now." "To the other side of the island, of course," Pippi told her. "I believe there's a safe harbor near the point where we first landed. We'll leave the ship there, journey overland, and infiltrate the enemy's stronghold. Pirates, I've been told, are greedy. I fully expect to learn my father's whereabouts by offering them a few kroner." Picture 3. The events that followed went pretty much according to Pippi's plan. The children anchored the pirate ship in a tiny bay on the far side of the island, where Pippi was confident it would remain undetected until they needed it again. Having been over the same ground earlier, they were back in the old Spanish fort in a matter of hours, quietly searching its cobbled streets and byways for some sign of the captain, peeking into each doorway and window. Picture 4. A sharp-eyed sentry atop the fortress wall spotted the three youngsters as they neared the fort's arsenal. He hurriedly left his post and spread the news throughout the pirates' dining room. Mess hall would be a better term. "There's trouble a-brewing, my friends," he snorted. "I've seen 3 intruders snooping round the Adarasana. On your feet, you dogs, and be quick about it. Follow me, and we'll teach 'em a lesson they'll not soon forget." The pirates, half dozing after their noon meal and their midday ration of rum, slowly staggered from the mess hall and began searching every quarter and corner of the fort. Picture 5. One of them, a nasty-looking fellow with a white turban tied around his head, accidentally ran into Pippi on the ground floor of the barracks building. "Aha!" he cried, wiping out his sword. "I gotcha! No use trying to run and hide. Stand your ground and fight like a man." "It's perfectly clear to me that you don't know anything about dueling," Pippi said calmly. "I've seen a half-dozen Errol Flynn movies, and he always did his dueling on a circular staircase. Let me show you how it's done, my good fellow." Her dueling lesson was both quick and to the point. Pippi smacked him across the top of his turban with the flat side of her sword and left him unconscious on the last step of the circular staircase. Deciding then that she'd be better off in another part of the fort, Pippi wandered into the mess hall. There she encountered a pair of seedy-looking pirates, obviously older men, she thought, and probably greedy. She walked up to them, big as day, and asked, "Pardon me, good sirs, would you be kind enough to help a lady in distress? I'm looking for my father. He's about this tall, I'd say. Help me find him and I'll see that you both get $2 Swedish." Unfortunately, the two men grabbed Pippi's money and ran away, proving again that pirates are not to be trusted. Picture 6. Meanwhile, back at the arsenal, the rest of the pirate crew had been ordered to roll out the cannons. "One of my men has been knocked unconscious," their leader roared. "If it's fighting they want, it's fighting they'll get." Picture 7. None of the pirates realized, however, that 2/3 of the invading army had hidden in the cannons. Yes, believe it or not, Tommy and Annika hid there, while Pippi explored the barracks. And now, hearing the commotion outside, they agreed it was a very good place to stay. As the afternoon shadows lengthened, the band of pirates got tired of waiting for the attack. "The captain's crazy," said one of them. "There is no invading army. I think I'll just take me a little nap." And the rest of the crew, convinced that he was right, soon joined him in dreamland. Viewmaster Reel 3. Picture 1. Pippi, too, had found a safe hiding place. After she's been cheated out of her money, she had jumped into the well in the fort's courtyard. It was a good thing that she did, because at that moment the pirates rolled out the big guns and parked them 20 feet away from the well. She remained there for an hour, wondering if the pirates would ever go away. Then, hardly believing her ears, Pippi heard them snoring. "Well," she thought, "things have been a little dull. I was about to go to sleep myself." Using the iron chain attached at the water bucket, Pippi slowly lifted herself to the top of the well, looking this way and that way to be sure the coast was clear. Picture 2. The pirates, sound sleepers all, but hardly soundless, snored contentedly in the late afternoon sun. Pippi tiptoed across the courtyard to the cannons. "All clear," she whispered. Tommy and Annika emerged from her hiding places. "That was a close call," Tommy muttered. "What would Napoleon do in a situation like this, Pippi?" "He'd attack, of course," Pippi assured Tommy. "When you have an enemy at a disadvantage, you always attack." "But we haven't any weapons," Tommy reminded her. "Don't be so sure," said Pippi. She bent down and removed a knife from the belt of one pirate. Then, noticing that another pirate had a bottle in his hand, she explained that it was probably filled with nitroglycerin. "A Swedish invention," Pippi noted, taking it. "We'll have use for it later." Picture 3. Running from the courtyard, the children passed a part of the fort they hadn't seen before. Pippi stopped for a minute. She did not know exactly why, but something told her that she'd better look in that window, and so she did. "Father, oh father, it's me, Pippi!" she cried. The startled captain rose from his bunk and saw Pippi at the window. "It's good to see you, little daughter. I have worried about you. Thank God you are alive and well," the captain sighed. "I've been digging a tunnel, Pippi. That's why I'm so dirty. But the work has gone slowly." Then, seeing the bottle, he asked, "What's that in your hand?" "I believe it's nitroglycerin," Pippi replied. "What a godsend," her father said. "I can use it to finish the tunnel. Now listen carefully, Pippi. I want you to get out of here as fast as you can. There's a little strip of sandy beach east of the harbor. Please go there, and, if God is willing, I'll be there myself in 15 minutes. Picture 4. Tommy and Annika and Mr. Jensen joined Pippi on the beach, waiting impatiently for the explosion. 15 minutes can seem like hours when you've nothing to do but sit and wait. Pippi told her friends. Annika was about to say, so true, but at that moment a thunderous boom shook the whole island. The children stood up and cheered. Picture 5. When the dust had settled, Pippi scrambled through the mile-long tunnel to the captain's prison cell. I know you told me to stay on the beach, Father, Pippi said, expecting to be scolded. I just couldn't wait any longer. Picture 6. I know, the captain nodded. I could hardly wait myself. It's been a long time, Pumpkin. Brushing a tear from his eye, the captain saw that Pippi had brought along some company. All right, he said. All of you, let's get moving. The last one to the beach is a rotten egg. Picture 7. Pippi told her father about everything they'd been doing, about the pirate ship they'd stolen. We can make our gateway in it, she said, about her duel and the close call in the courtyard. But I wasn't scared, she said. I just kept thinking, if anything happens to me, I like to be buried in a glass coffin so I can see what's going on. Your dear mother would be proud of you, Pippi, Captain Longstocking said. Now I'll just take a minute and go out of our way a bit and blow up that other pirate ship. That evening, safely aboard the getaway ship after their wild run through town, Pippi wrote a letter which said in part, To the pirates of San Cristobal. Considering what's happened, I think you try to do something honest for a living. I am, sincerely, Pippi Longstocking, 9 years old.